This is Dr. Vaikuntan Rajaratnam. This is task 3 on online assessment. The scope of this discussion will be how discussion forums can be structured and the methods of managing and stimulating discussions and in creating engagement and interactivity, and what are the best principles to facilitate these online discussions, and what are the models for assessing online discussions. So what are discussion forums? They are basically a platform on which individuals can produce, share, store, and retrieve information, exchanging knowledge within the group, and which is stored. Is open to both students and teachers, is conducted in a very secure course management system, and allowing for asynchronous participation and for collaboration among students, and it can address specific student questions that then can be used to benefit the whole class, and it allows for peer support and insights, but it requires a regular participation by both the facilitator and the students for it to be meaningful. So what's the pedagogy for forums? Well, the forums enable the construction and sharing of knowledge. It promotes cognitive learning, reflection, and critical thinking among the students. It allows for the collaboration and dialogue to occur between students and also between the teachers and the students, and in an environment that is safe. Now here the teacher's role is basically initially to trigger through the use of questions, establishing the etiquette of engagement, and encourage people to contribute and to remain as a guide on the side rather than a sage on the stage. Discussion forums are the creation of online learning community. So what's the structure of a discussion forum? Basically, it can be like a tree-like structure in which different discussions can be distinguished by threads, or it can be like a discussion topics that you can then browse through, and you can navigate directly to relevant topics within the discussion forum. The disadvantages of the discussion forums is if a user starts the discussion in the wrong thread, and then it becomes difficult to follow, and a topic with multiple threads may be quite busy and untidy and difficult to follow arguments. The forums can become so big that there cannot be an overview of the whole topics discussed, and key-based search may not be an appropriate way of searching for specific knowledge, because some of the students may not even know the keywords to use to search for specific knowledge. Now, the use of collaborative filtering techniques as used in some of the various types of commercial product discussion forums, where you can have a recommender system. Somebody gives a 4-star, 5-star for a particular discussion, but this is difficult in an automated setting, especially with small amount of input data, and may be inappropriate in this sort of an environment. So what are the properties of an online discussion forum? First of all, it must be asynchronous. You must allow for discussions to occur in their own time. There must be feedback to the teacher. The teacher must be able to look at the various discussion and provide certain engaging comments, positive feedbacks, and direction. There must be motivation for the learners that it is worth the while to be engaged in this forum. The mechanisms must be in place for motivating participants through teacher feedback, to positive comments from others, and for reproducing and rehashing some of the comments by others within the group. This gives positive feedback for the students. And the ability to rate the comments by students also encourages the motivation and engagement by other students. What are some of the behavior styles of participants of online discussion forums? There are those who are regular contributors who tend to be quite busy and sometimes also noisy in inverted commas, having a lot of chat and contributions, and may even monopolize the discussion forum. So this should be carefully managed by the facilitators. There are those who are casual contributing, who comments occasionally, and the those who go around reading and rating and hardly communicate very much or contribute very much. Then there's the casual raters, and then those are the passive users, who some call the lurkers, who tend to not contribute very much but just obtain and gain information and knowledge as much as they can through their use in the various discussion forums. There are basically three types of online discussion forum. One is the auxiliary discussion forum, which is basically a availability of an asynchronous discussion forum as a supplement to the traditional delivery method of a face-to-face classroom teaching, as compared to a hybrid discussion model in which there's online discussion forum forms a major component, but still a very traditional classroom learning still continues, which is synchronous. The tendency now with online courses is to go towards an embedded discussion forum where the only sole communication method uh, among the learners and the teachers is wholly online. The challenges facing online discussion forums is the maintenance and establishment of interactivity. Now, students need to have a clear understanding of the instructor's expectations, and the content that is must be such that it is easy to follow. The opportunities for feedback among students and instructors must be clear and easy to use. The categories of interactivity that can occur is between student and instructor, and student and course content. These are the general three categories. And the interaction can be both public or private, and both of which are very powerful to ensure engagement in a safe environment, to ensure that the students are comfortable to learn and have deep understanding. In the student instructor interactivity, it can be asynchronous, which is advantages and maintains optimum utilization of time and resources, and where the student can pose problems which can sometimes be answered by the teacher, or sometimes the students themselves may be able to answer them. This is uh, however, the connection with student synchronously requires immediate feedback, and this can be quite difficult and taxing for the teachers. But there are solutions to do to be used. Like for example, the teachers can say they could be available online from a particular fixed time period, through which the students can then go online and get immediate feedback through conferencing or chats online. But there is a pressure for the participant to respond quickly, and therefore in these environments which are synchronous, and the messages and the information can be very brief, because this can be quite time consuming. Now, the instructor student private interaction is very, very important. It must be available for the student who is struggling, where there can be personalized motivation and feedback to help them in their struggle, and to engage them to ensure that they participate and benefit. This can be done through messaging, various formats, but it must be in a private environment. It's between the student and the teacher, allowing for a safe and comfortable environment for them to in the student instructor public interaction. This is usually based on predetermined topics. The participants must be evaluated based on the recognition of students' commitment, and the online communication must be consistent. There must be a formal rubric to evaluate students' participation, and the expectations from them are clearly defined at the onset. Instructor participation in the discussion forums are important, but should be kept to be minimal, mainly one of support, feedback, and to maintain engagement and interaction. Now, some students may be very passive in discussion forums and learning vicariously, by observing and reading the interaction between the others. And this can be an issue. Now, student-student interaction is the main benefit of group forum discussion, allowing for collaborative work. Students benefit from their peers, they feel more safe, their anonymity has been found to encourage more activity, and this low-stake environment, they can provide peer support and learning, and with the inclusion of collaborative projects and encourages collaborative work, and they may develop social groups within the forum to help produce learning material and teaching materials among themselves too. And they may have their own group dynamics with contracts being formed among themselves in the delivery of the interactions. Now, the other straightforward interaction is between the student and the course content, and this is where content, online content, has to be designed in such a way it has got the interactivity with chat rooms and discussion boards within the content framework. The front end must be aesthetically inviting so that the students will come and sit and learn, and conveys the overall structure of the course and a roadmap and a curriculum map on where they stand and this particular program stands within the overall context of the learning program. And the navigational structure has to be very simple and clear. There must be interactivity with self-assessment quizzes or certain forms of high decision making scenario plannings within the learning objects, and there must be specific tutorials within the course to help in the learning process, and the use of multimedia, both video, audio, and animations, help to reinforce content. And the opportunity nowadays to be able to provide verbal feedback, and not only in the form of writing feedback but also audio feedback, so that it makes it easy for people to provide the feedback instead of making it difficult in the form of typing it out. And so this encourages the student course content interaction. So how do we facilitate effective online discussion? Generally, you have to motivate the students to engage, otherwise, it's going to be difficult. The ground rules have to be very clear, and there's no harassment and bullying. There must be a safe environment for everybody to contribute and give equal opportunity for everyone to contribute on the forum. You must also provide opportunity for social emotional discussions to occur. People may be vehement about certain things and they may feel and they may want to discuss it. This should be encouraged but controlled. Opportunities for authentic content and task oriented discussions must be made available. So, how do the facilitators play a part? They need to develop a social presence within the online discussion forums. They must avoid to try to become the sage on the stage, but rather be the guide on the side. They must ensure there's equity within the group in terms of participation, cultural, and gender, and there are no unwanted discussions that put pressure on individuals. And he must increase the status of low status students and promote equitable collaboration. It can be a task for the non-engaging, non-interactive participants of the discussion forum, and here is where the facilitator has to use a very unique means and personalized means to get them drawn into the discussion to benefit from this collaborative learning. The challenges facing online discussion forums is how do you assess them? There are basically two big areas that can be used in terms of assessing, either the holistic scoring system or the analytical scoring system. Holistic is much more general, based on the various students' postings within the forum, the quality and the frequency, and assigns single scoring using a rubrics with clear descriptors on what those scores mean, and it's usually performed at the end of the discussion. Whereas analytical scoring systems are much more complex, more comprehensive, robust, but very laborious. It involves the assessment over multiple dimensions and domains, and the criteria are used for each single one of them, and it helps to identify students' various strengths and weaknesses. And here's an example of a table with a holistic scoring system where they create descriptors for the poorly performing, the average, and the top performer. Therefore, shows these skills like demonstrate leadership in discussions, posting regularly, replied to main topics, researched this material, timing was frequent, and replied to various other students. And so all the qualities are very clear, transparent, and expectations have been made known upfront at the onset of the whole discussion forum. In the more analytical framework, as you can see here, it's much more comprehensive but more labor intensive, requires various domains like how well they participated, and here defined as the number of messages or statement transmitted by one person to the other, and you start looking at the number of messages, number of statement, and socially how well they introduce themselves, how well they felt with each other's comments and statements and learning points. The interactive nature is again looking at how they interacted, what statements they used in the various interaction. In the cognitive domain, you will see have there been any questions about theory formulation and how they thought about it, how knowledge was analyzed. And in the metacognition, you will look for statements like, "Oh, I understood what was said. I just thinking, is this possible?" And such would be used in assessing these domains. Here's another analytical where you will look at the various phases during the discussion, from the triggering to the resolution, and how individuals use the various sentence and language in the discussion forums to look for these various descriptors whether has been achieved. There is another much more robust and comprehensive form of assessment of online discussion called the scaffold, which then takes into consideration the various categories and descriptions of contribution by the participants, and it has got 19 indicators on which it will analyze and assess the participation in online discussion forums. So these are the 19 domains that are used by the scaffold model, from the beginning, how they acknowledge each other, how the analysis is done, to various comprehensive use of language in the transmission of knowledge and ideas, originality, reflection, resolution, and all of these topic 19 areas can be assessed, and various rubrics can be then used to help obtain very structured and objective assessment of the online discussion forum. So therefore, online discussion forum assessment process is not as simple. It is quite laborious, especially with large groups, and therefore none of the online discussion forums technology allow for automation of the assessment of students. Most requires manually assessment by the teachers, and this can be an issue, especially in massive open online courses. So there is a need for a much more automated system, if possible, with the use of technology or with the use of peer-to-peer assessment of the online discussion. Thank you.